What is up YouTube, Jamie the Kid 00 here, coming at you guys with a brand new video. So today we're going to be going through a deck profile of Adamancipator. So Adamancipator was really one of the breakaway decks of the new kind of the quarantine format, and of course infamously went untouched in the July limited and forbidden list. So I thought it'd be a cool idea to bring you guys a list. I'm still waiting on a few cards to come through in the post for my collection, so there are going to be a few cards which are going to superimpose into the video with the power of the magical finger clicks like you've seen in some of the other videos, so do forgive me for that. Hopefully it won't break the immersion. So let's dig right into the monsters and get things started off. This build is not running, like, spoiler alert, I guess. This is not running the Onomatopoeia package because this build does not focus a huge amount into Gallant Granite. I really do rate the value of that package, and if you want to do that, like 100%, check out the Onomatopoeia package. I'll try and superimpose it in here if I remember to. It's really, really fantastic. This deck basically is just loads of extenders, hand traps, and then the actual Adamancipator core that just focuses around getting an extra couple of monsters on the field to hard rush Halka-Fibrax or find a way to Gallant Granite. That's all it needs to do to get its combos, so it just focuses on pushing its way into that sort of thing. So let's start off with, of course, the most infamous card of the deck list, and that is 3 copies of Adamancipator Researcher. Now, the deck plays 3 of the kind of Adamancipator human monsters, I suppose is the best way to look at it. They're all rock tuner monsters. There's 2 2s and a level 4. Most importantly, they all share a universal effect wherein they're able to reveal or excavate the top 5 cards of your deck. Find a level 4 or lower non-tuner rock monster and special summon it and put all of the rest back. So it's just continuous extension, and if any of you are aware of what a link monster does, you completely understand why extension is a good thing. Adamancipator Researcher is the most generic of the 3 Adamancipator humans, because Researcher can just be special summoned to the field if you control a rock monster except a copy of Researcher. So your most common play when you're trying to extend with Researcher is you will make Gallant Granite, search her to your hand, special summon her to the field, trigger her effect if it's the correct time for you to do so, if you don't have a way to set cards onto the top of the deck, and then you can turn her and Gallant Granite into, say, a Halka-Fibrax and go off from there. So there's the 3 Researcher. We're also playing the 3 copies of Adamancipator Seeker. Seeker is identical, except you have to control an Adamancipator monster, not just a rock not just a rock monster. And then we get a little bit more specific with 3 copies of Adamancipator Analyzer, but Analyzer requires your opponent to control a monster. But Analyzer is a level 4, so you kind of want to go through this to make your Gallant play, and that can get you into your Researcher that way around. So you kind of get the relationship between the 3 of them, and the fact that they have to come out at different stages in the combos, and that can be quite important. Okay, putting these away and moving into the rest of the deck. Like I said, the remainder of the deck is essentially level 4 extension, quicker ways to Halka-Fibrax, and hand traps. And I've erred a little heavier on the side of hand traps, but also extenders that I'm a very big fan of. This is a little bit less optimal than some other folks' builds, but this is one of my favorite cards from kind of old Yu-Gi-Oh!, and that's Gigantes. Gigantes is a super simple monster. You just banish 1 earth monster from your graveyard to special summon it to the field from your hand. However, if it is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, it destroys all spells and traps on the field. Now, I love that. It's an effect that so many people forget about in the game, and they used to, especially when I played this in things like Karakuri, and I really wanted to play an extra one. Almost all decks play 1. You should probably only play 1 because it's not a great turn 1 extender. Kind of just extends a play that's already going off. But I love this card. I love the utility it offers. So I thought, hey, I enjoy this. I'm going to include it in a little bit of additional numbers. A card which requires no introduction, however, in this list is the still at 3 copies of Block Dragon. Block Dragon is the deck's dragon ruler. It is absolutely obscene. The fact that it can continuously jump out of your graveyard is absolutely bonkers by banishing 3 earth monsters, of which we play a hell of a lot. The fact that you can set this card up using Union Carrier, which we'll get to in a little bit, and of course, most ridiculously, the fact that when it does hit the graveyard, it can search your deck for rock monsters that that's levels equal up to 8. So that's, of course, the 2, and the 4 in the forms of Analyzer, Seeker, and Researcher, and it can be any of your other toolbox monsters as well. This card does not belong at 3 in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and it is the single reason why this deck is absolutely bonkers. So 3 Block Dragon are absolutely obscene, and now super easy to get with the reprint, but the Ultras are just so pretty. We're then playing 3 copies of Doki Doki. Now, I think Doki Doki is super cool because, again, it gives you access to a whole slew of toolbox cards. One of my favorite ones at the moment is Koaki Meru Guardian for protecting against obvious hand traps as you are comboing off. It's just a really good rock monster to hit off of things like your Researcher. You special summon it to your board, and you trigger its effect to modulate your hand accordingly. So you can have it search out things like, of course, your Gigantes to kind of continue extending a play if you need to, or you can use it for searching, say, one of the Adamancipators that you haven't otherwise already special summoned to the board. Then for that hand trap prevention, but also for level 4 toolboxing, we are playing the 3 copies of Koaki Meru Guardian. So Koaki Meru Guardian, just to bring those in, it's a bit of a bipolar card, and my main experience of playing against this on Edo Pro is people forgetting to pay the maintenance cost for it and blowing up. But primarily you're going to be summoning this to go with, say, a level 4 extender like a Gigantes or like the Medolce extender, and then going into your Gallant Granite. However, if you do manage to get this monster onto the field as a kind of free resource, so to speak, because of the amount of special summoning you have in the deck, you are able to just use it to sit there and act as a blocker for any of your opponent's primary hand traps. The real things you want to look out for, of course, being Nibiru and anything that's going to try and stop your Hulk Fibrax. So Guardian comes in like that in an absolute insane capacity, but it is slightly win more because it only comes up when you're already ahead. Then, continuing with the vein of extension, one of the cards that I actually have no copies of with me for the moment is Medolce Petting Cesur. So Petting Cesur is in the list just shamelessly to be a level 4 Cyber Dragon to special summon itself to the field, but it is also an Earth monster, so it interacts with a whole bunch of the different themes within the list. We're just special summoning it to spam out extra monsters to give us ways into Hulk Fibrax, specialing it to the field to accompany things like your Adharas, which we'll get to in a moment, or other tuner monsters like the hand traps, which are playing in large numbers in this list. But it's just a good way to interact with both of your engines, because you can use it with your level 4 Guardians and Gigantes to get your Gallant Granite, or alternatively it does interact well with your tuners. So it's kind of the perfect extender for the deck. When I first saw it, I didn't really get why it was in the list, but like now that I see the way it meshes together with the 2 themes that are going on, card's busted. Then again, continuing with the extender theme, we are playing 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Adhara. This makes me want to play Naturia Beast really, really bad. Any deck that's Earth Monsters that plays this card just makes me want to play Nat Beast all day, every day. But this is principally, again, in here to extend your way into your Hulk Fibrax plays. It's an Earth monster, so interacts with all the other Earth mechanics. Very, very simple. And then something I've done, which is a little different from some of the other lists, and it's mainly because I'm super paranoid in this format, is I am playing more hand traps than I am extenders. A lot of the lists that are out there are just playing are a little bit more susceptible to the FDKs. My list is playing 9 hand traps as opposed to the traditional as opposed to the traditional 6 that you'll see in a lot of these lists. So those hand traps are 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, because while I really want my Hulk Fibrax to go off, I'd rather yours didn't. And I'm playing 3 copies of Nibiru. You'll hear me sing its praises in every single video I do at the moment, because I think this card is absolutely busted in this format, because realistically the only thing that's ever stopping it is your Koaki Meru Guardian, which, like I said before, is quite difficult to get out unless you have it as the free resource, or at least that I find in a lot of the combos I face off against. And then finally, the last card we're playing in the list is the one Mecha Phantom Beast Olion, for the ludicrous amounts of free extension that the card gives us when we're going off with our Hulk Fibrax combos, and that rounds off the monster lineup, because this deck plays a bananas amount of monsters. Then onto the spell lineup, and it's fairly simple. It's extension and protection. So we're playing the 1 copy of Monster Reborn as, like I said, free extension, getting that extra monster onto the board, getting ridiculous resources back out of the graveyard when we're rezzing things like our Synchros and our Links to give us further link climbs. Card's bonkers. It allows you to play around hand traps. It's just really, really good. Then the 1 copy of Magical Midbreaker Field. You place this onto the field, you suddenly become immune to so many cards going first and second. It's just one of the Omni Protects. There's a reason this card is at 1. I think it has a really, really solid place in the board. And then we're playing 3 copies of Adamancipator Signs. So Signs is really cool. Signs is essentially 3 more copies of Monster Reborn, targets a rock monster in your graveyard, special summons it to the board. But if it special summons an Adamancipator monster, you can actually take a level 4 or lower rock monster from your deck and then put it on top of the deck. So you're immediately then setting up a target for your Adamancipator to then excavate and continuing on with your plays. So you can set up things like your Doki Doki. The Doki Doki is then going to auto summon, and then you get to search out your additional toolboxes. And the combo just keeps on going from there. The amount of free resources the deck generates is bonkers, and this just kind of fits in with that entire theme. And I'm not going to separate the traps into an extra bit. We're just going to talk about the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence that make up 3 more hand traps, which we can also set as a back row as if our starting board just wasn't bananas enough. So then for the extra deck is, I guess you can call it fairly standard. It's just all the abusable cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, and I guess a few that have a few extra cool interactions within this list. So for our Link 1s, we are playing the 1 copy of Link Ross and the 1 copy of Link Spider. Link Ross, of course, we all know why that's in here. It's to interact with our Crystron Halqifibrax to give us just ridiculous advantage plays with the synchro plays that you can make using things like Martial Metal Marcher, Herald of the Arclight, and Borrelode, Savage Dragon, just to name but a few. But we're also playing a few other cool toolbox cards. So we're playing the 1 IP Masquerena because of the way it interacts with spoilers, Nightmare Unicorn. We're also playing a copy of Union Carrier because the combo that this sets up using your Block Dragon is bonkers. The fact that it still works as a pseudo Laval chain, but you don't even have to worry about getting 2 level 4s on the board anymore. It's just silly. This is, of course, hard to shift from your field, but that is where your IP Masquerena comes in. You can use these 2 to make a slightly less optimal Appaloosa, but it is a resource you can make. Or, like I was saying before, you can make the Unicorn. We're playing the 1 Phoenix as well, should that come up. Like I said, the 1 Unicorn, it's really, really silly. It's just another interrupt you can have against your opponent before you even start touching your big synchros with your negates. And speaking of negates as well, like Appaloosa, the amount of link climbing this deck does, the amount of free resources it can set up on the field, it just cries out for Appaloosa to exist as a card. And then, like I said, we're not focusing too much on the level 4 toolbox in this build, but we do play a couple of the level 4 XYZs in the form of the 1 Gallant Granite, because it does set up so many combos with its ability to search Researcher. So the fact that it's just any 2 level 4s equals a free Excavate and then a Halqifibrax. I mean, like Gallant Granite, it just comes into its own in this. And of course it can search Nibiru. If, say, you want to play around there Nibiru and not combo off, you can just make Gallant Granite search Nibiru end. And they're probably not going to OTK you, but that's really, really suboptimal and you really shouldn't do that. And then we move into the Synchro component, which is, like I said before, it's fairly standard. You're just going to see the 1 copy of Martial Metal Marcher, the 1 copy of Herald of the Arclight. These are the 2 most abusable cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Alongside the Halqifibrax play. And then the 1 copy of Borrelode Savage Dragon. You're always going to want to try and set up a Herald of the Arclight and a Borrelode Savage Dragon onto the field, just to make stupid negates. And then speaking of negates and I suppose advantage, we're then playing the 1 Adamancipator Risen Raptite and the 1 Adamancipator Risen Dragite. Again, negates and extension. You kind of get the drill by now. But yeah, that brings me to about the end of the profile on Adamancipator. I don't feel that there's a huge amount of kind of creativity you can put into the deck. It's just a varying stack of ways of getting you into ridiculous link summon combos. There's potentially something to be done with the actual extra deck that can kind of change the outcome of it. But at the moment, with such brutal boards punched out by Halqifibrax, there is no real other optimal way to do it because the top tier way is so far and away separated from the rest of the game. But that does bring me to about the end of the profile. Let me know what you're playing in your Adamancipator deck and what Adamancipator engines you're using to bolster the whole core, because there's so many different extenders that are going into it. This has been kind of a bit more standard one. If you have enjoyed, please do leave a like. It really helps out the channel. Subscribe if you are new here. Share this with your friends if you think they would enjoy it. And otherwise, I will see you guys soon with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content. This has been Jamie the Kid 00. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Bye-bye.